DILLIAN the Body Snatcher White here. It's a champ. Big up to Sporting Icon. Subscribe. Otherwise, I might pay you guys a visit.
Now, as you all know, I support each and every British fighter first and foremost, no matter what. And in the heavyweight, as much as people think that Anthony Joshua or Tyson Fury are like my favourite fighters, they're certainly up there, that is for sure. But DILLIAN WHYTE is my favourite heavyweight. And with all the rumours about who could be fighting next, of course, the most recent news was that DILLIAN WHYTE has said that between himself, Eddie Hearn, and Alexander Povetkin's team, they have agreed to fight next, which is a fantastic fight. Of course, DILLIAN WHYTE is ranked number 1 by WBC. Deontay Wilder is avoiding him like the plague. But now news literally just broke a couple of minutes ago from Eddie Hearn himself, where he just says, just received a letter from the IBF ordering a final eliminator for the mandatory position between DILLIAN WHYTE and KUBRAT PULEV. Interesting times for the division. That is interesting times for the division, no doubt. And as a huge fan of DILLIAN WHYTE, of course, he's had like a couple of interviews with me on this channel. You can find them in the live interviews with pro boxers playlist. I'm not feeling it. I don't know why I'm not feeling it for KUBRAT PULEV. I have no interest in watching KUBRAT PULEV fight. I really don't. That's just a personal thing. Also for it, because the likes of Wilder and Povetkin have been linked quite strongly with DILLIAN WHYTE, the thought of him facing KUBRAT PULEV next just doesn't do it for me. And while it's good that he would become official mandatory for the IBF, but really, he doesn't need to, because he can fight Anthony Joshua at any given time. Both he and Anthony Joshua both want that rematch. They both work for Eddie Hearn, so, you know, it's very, very easy to make. And as for mandatory, doesn't really need it, because although he will get 25% of the purse being the mandatory, he can probably negotiate that anyway, maybe a bit more, who knows. But so for me, I'm not feeling it. Now, of course, if this fight happens, of course, I'll be supporting DILLIAN and I'll be hyping the fight as best I possibly can. But while there's options out there, like Povetkin, huge name, he's arguably got the best resume in the heavyweight division right now, with the number of top quality opponents that he's fought. That will be a good victory for DILLIAN, and it sends a statement to Team Wilder, because for me, ultimately, what I want to see is, I want to see DILLIAN WHYTE against Deontay Wilder. I've been calling for it for a year now. I really have, and it is frustrating that Deontay Wilder just doesn't want the fight. He's unwilling to even talk about it, really, other than the fact, well, I'll do it if you do this and if you do that, as in for Anthony Joshua. Okay, so Wilder wants a Joshua fight. Of course, it's a huge payday, right? But what I want is DILLIAN WHYTE versus Deontay Wilder, for the very reasons are, and I know I'm in the small category here, but because I believe DILLIAN WHYTE beats Deontay Wilder. I really, really do. And for him to beat Deontay Wilder to get the WBC title, he can then go and have undisputed against Anthony Joshua. That's the better scenario. Him becoming IBF mandatory, while it's good and all, he's not going to get the credit. Wilder is still going to say, well, who have you fought? You haven't done anything. But by beating Povetkin, that does it. Wilder can no longer say this. Against KUBRAT PULEV, people will say, you know, he's old, he's slow, all he's got is a jab. That's no good. Okay, so Pulev did beat Derek Chisora, who's, of course, should we say, a rival of DILLIAN WHYTE, although DILLIAN WHYTE is leagues above him now. He's been proving that recently. So, for me, yes, it is interesting, of course it is, and any fight that DILLIAN WHYTE has, I'm fixed to. You know, that is the fight I'm looking forward to. And it will be the same with Pulev. Maybe if this fight gets signed, it will sink in a bit more, and I'll be like, right, okay, then fair enough. Because Pulev has only lost one fight, and that was against Vladimir Klitschko. So he's definitely top quality, Pulev. He's ranked highly in all sanctioning bodies, of course, but he strikes me as a bit of a coward. And the reasons for that is quite simple. Now, don't get me wrong, I do like Pulev, but it's just that he was given many chances to fight Anthony Joshua before for the title and huge money, but he kept turning it down. I mean, he turned it down to go the European route, and then never defended the title. And then even when he was the mandatory for the IBF, of course, Carlos Takam replaced him. But he still didn't seem like he was interested in the fight. And I'm sorry, but I don't believe he was injured when he pulled out the fight. I think he was just scared of Joshua. That's what I think it is. I'm not too convinced that he's really going to be interested in this one. Now, of course, there was talks that Dominic Brazil against Kubrat Pulev was going to be for the official mandatory for the IBF. That's more interesting for me. It's still not that interesting, but it's still more interesting for me because I want to see Dillian Whyte in with more dangerous names. I think Pulev, while he is very good, very tricky, very, very skillful, I think Dillian Whyte finds this one quite easy, to be honest. And Dillian Whyte, I know he'll take on anybody. You know, if you put Sharon Briggs in there, he'll fight him. If you put David Hay in there, he'll fight him. He'll fight anybody. You know, even somebody who's ranked 400 in the world. You know, the kind of guys that Wilder likes fighting. Dillian Whyte will do that if necessary. Or number one in the world, Anthony Joshua, he will do that without too much regard to pay. I mean, of course he wants to get paid, but while he's working for Eddie Hearn and Matchroom, and while Joshua is working with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom, there's no need for Dillian Whyte to become a mandatory for either belt that Joshua has, because that fight can be made in a heartbeat. What's the point of it? The Povetkin one, yes, okay, it will be for a ranked number one or mandatory position for Joshua's WBA or WBO title, but still, it's Alexander Povetkin. I know Povetkin's got one loss on his record against Klitschko. I know Pulev has one loss on his record, and that was against Klitschko. So in some ways, they're kind of equal with that one, but Povetkin is a much bigger name. That's a much bigger credit win, and that's all I want. I want Dillian Whyte to start getting the recognition that I've been giving him for a long, long time, and I know a lot of you guys have too. But Dillian Whyte versus Kubrat Pulev, I'm just not feeling it. I'd rather he went and fought Povetkin. I would rather, in reality, that Deontay Wilder actually grew some proper nuts and actually got in the ring with Dillian Whyte. You know, actually step up rather than fight people who with a heart condition who was failing the medical on the damn same day as the fight in Ortiz. And, you know, I do like Luis Ortiz, but again, Luis Ortiz versus Dillian Whyte. You know, that's better for me. I'm just speaking from a personal point of view. I mean, I'll try and get Dillian on the channel to try and talk about some of the things to see how it is that he's feeling about this whole situation. What's his ideal route outside of Wilder? But I don't know. I'm a little bit disappointed, to be honest. Now, just because the IBF of all of it doesn't mean Dillian Whyte has to do it. It doesn't mean Kubrat Pulev has to do it. It just means if they don't, they lose any chance of becoming a mandatory. But as I said, does Dillian Whyte really need to be mandatory for any title that Joshua has? Probably not. So for me, it's all about building a reputation. And while having Pulev on the record is fantastic, I'm just not feeling it. I'm really not. But anyway, just putting it out there for you all. So, of course, drop your thoughts below, click that thumbs up, and subscribe. Catch you on the next video.